has an interesting dynamic, because there's a certain kind of energy that allows it to be, right, seek its own nourishment. Right? Animals, anything living seeks its own nourishment. It has some kind of internal integrity to it that's rather totally amazing when you think about it, because it has the capability of what I call reweaving itself. Right? It reweaves broken parts that are not functioning properly. To a certain degree, it has a reweaving capability. So it also, therefore, has a growth potential. So it has the ability to reweave, to nourish itself, right? And these living things, therefore, are quite amazing in that respect. But they're locked within the conditions of their existence, even though they have these properties. That's the word fate. That's what fate means. That's what fate means. Now, to the degree that we have reason, what does it mean? It means that if you can see a pattern, if you can see that you're locked into a pattern, then the person has to have one more step. They have to see that they are not the pattern that they are locked into. That's not what they are. That they are bound by the pattern, but there's the possibility of recognizing the pattern comes with that recognition, the possibility that you might be able to emerge from it. So therefore, when any human being, right, any human being whose behavior is governed by fate, wakes up to the possibility that they can recognize patterns emerging in their lives that lock them in. At the moment they recognize that they're patterns, then they can seek their causes, right? They can seek what maintains them. Right? They can also see the forces that bring about their dissolution. That means when they recognize the pattern that locked them into their past fated behavior, it awakens, therefore, a struggle to break out. Because in recognizing the pattern, they can then turn around. You see, they can then turn around and examine themselves. This ability to turn around and examine themselves and find that pattern and seek causes and try to decide what is it that maintains them, and especially the forces that sometimes occurs, often occurs with some people if they're lucky, that not only is there a force that maintains them, there's also a force that seems to oppose their coming out of patterns. Sometimes we call that a counterattack. Now, this ability, therefore, to turn around and decide upon it, that's your moment of freedom. That's the moment of freedom. That means we are no longer subject to the rules of fate. That's the beginning of the operation of providence. We have to make sense of that word now, just as we did with the word fate. So then, we are provided with something quite remarkable. An ability to look upon ourselves. There's an energy that allows us to do it, and therefore we can see in ourselves that what we have been provided with is the ability to emerge from our fate. Now, all Greek drama, all Greek tragedy is nothing other than the hero has to realize he's fated and he has to discover how to break his fate. That's the nature of Homer, of Achilles, Odysseus, much more Penelope than Odysseus. But that moment of recognizing this and breaking out of it is to break out of fate. How is that accomplished? That's accomplished by the fact that somehow there's a part of us that can then look upon ourselves. Now, this ability to look upon ourselves is sometimes called ousia. Though we don't use the word too much, it's often translated as essence. Let me talk about essence for a while. As ousia, I like the word ousia better than essence. Anything that can turn upon itself so that it can view the whole of itself. If it can view the whole of itself in its most essential aspects, can't be a thing. No matter what you call any, let's say this is a reversion, whatever you talk about this, there is nothing in the physical universe that can turn upon itself and be superimposed upon itself in all parts of itself. That's impossible. Even a snake can only bite its tail. It can't swallow its mouth. Right? Have you ever heard of a snake swallowing its own mouth in a fury to just, oh, no. Therefore, there is something in man that can turn it about, and since it can turn about on the whole of itself, it cannot be corporeal. It can't be a physical attribute. It must, by necessity, be something beyond the physical. And that function in reason that can turn about and turn around and look upon itself must therefore be in the realm of spirit. So that by the reversion upon oneself, one discovers the exercise of reason in a totally different way, because here is the need to understand. Understand the very things we mentioned, the cause is what maintains and dissolves. Oh, now look. What do you get when you then awaken this kind of reason to understand these things? What do you get for it? What you get is an understanding of how all of these mean terms work. You see, these are all mean terms. These are all mean terms. Because when you struggle to get out of your fate, you are then in this realm. When you're in this realm, in that activity of reason is not physical, therefore it's not bound by fate. That's a new kind of freedom, and therefore even though we may be generated, our bodies may be generated in time, we can say our very nature is sometimes called substance. Our substance is eternal. That is to say, it's not in time. It's not in time. Not in time. It doesn't age, doesn't grow, it's there. With that moment of recognition, you can step out of the fated, this is time bound, this is bound by time, locked into time. Breaking out of time is to step out of time, so therefore a part of man's nature must necessarily, by these reasonings, to be stepping out of time, and therefore there's a part of man's nature which must be regarded as being eternal. Part of our nature, however, has been made, generated, so therefore we are in time, we come into time, we pass out of time, but there's an aspect of us that can reflect on the whole fated universe of which we're a part and emerge from it. We can emerge from it. When we emerge from it, we're in this middle triangle. Because now we see we have been provided with something called reason and understanding. We now have the power of reason to turn around, and by that we